Most people think stalkers are rare, something you only hear about on the news. But for some people, it becomes their reality. Tonight, we're going to explore 3 true stalker horror stories. Stories from people who realized someone was watching them. Let's begin. A woman named Lisa had just moved into a new apartment in a quiet neighborhood. At first, everything felt normal. She worked during the day, came home in the evening, and spent most nights relaxing. But after about a week, she started noticing something strange. Every night when she got home, there was a car parked across the street. Same spot. Same time. At first, she didn't think much of it. It could have been a neighbor. But after a few days, she realized something unsettling. The car was always there when she arrived and always gone in the morning. One night, she decided to test something. Instead of going straight inside, she stayed in her car and watched. The other car didn't move. Its lights were off. She couldn't see inside, but something felt wrong. So she quickly got out and went inside her apartment. That night, she kept looking out the window. The car was still there, just sitting, watching. Over the next few days, things got worse. She started noticing the same car in other places. At the grocery store, near her workplace, even once at a gas station miles away. That's when she knew. It wasn't a coincidence. Someone was following her. One night, as she was unlocking her apartment door, she felt it. That feeling that someone was behind her. She turned around quickly. No one, but across the street, the car was there again. This time, the headlights slowly turned on, blinding her for a second. She rushed inside and locked the door. Her heart was racing. That night, she called the police. They told her to stay inside and not open the door for anyone. About an hour later, she heard a knock. Slow, deliberate. She froze. The knocking came again. Louder this time. She didn't answer. She stayed completely still. After a few minutes, the knocking stopped. The next morning, the car was gone. But on her door, there was a small scratch, right at eye level, like someone had been standing there, waiting. The next morning, the car was gone. For the first time in days, the street looked completely normal. No car, no movement, nothing. Lisa felt a small sense of relief. Maybe it was over. Maybe she had imagined it, but something still didn't feel right. Before leaving for work, she decided to check the hallway camera in her building. There was a small screen near the entrance where tenants could review footage. She scrolled back to the night before, around the time she heard the knocking. At first, everything looked normal. She saw herself entering the building, walking down the hallway, unlocking her door. Then the footage continued. A few seconds later, a person walked into frame. He was wearing dark clothes. A hood pulled over his head. He stopped right in front of her door and just stood there, not moving, not knocking, just staring at the door. Minutes passed. He didn't leave. Then slowly he leaned forward and placed his ear against the door, listening. Lisa felt her chest tighten. She kept watching. The man reached into his pocket and pulled something out. A small object. He moved it toward the lock, like he was about to try and open it. Then suddenly the hallway lights flickered. For a split second, the camera glitched. And when the image came back, he was gone. Just gone. No footsteps. No exit. Nothing. The hallway was empty. Lisa immediately called the police and showed them the footage. But when they reviewed the system themselves, there was nothing there. The clip was corrupted. The part where the man appeared completely missing, like it had never been recorded. Lisa moved out 2 days later. But even now, sometimes when she parks her car at night, she still checks across the street, just to make sure that car isn't there. Story 2. The Window. At 3 a.m., a college student named Eric lived alone in a small house near campus. He often stayed up late, studying or playing games. One night around 3 a.m., he heard something strange, a tapping sound, soft, repeated, coming from his window. At first, he thought it was just a branch or maybe rain, but then it happened again. Tap, tap, tap. He looked toward the window, but the curtains were closed. He hesitated, then slowly got up and walked closer. The tapping stopped. For a moment, everything was silent. Then suddenly, tap, right against the glass. Eric pulled the curtain open quickly. Nothing. Just darkness outside. He stared for a few seconds, then went back to his desk, trying to ignore it. But a few minutes later, the tapping started again. This time louder, more aggressive. Tap, tap, tap. Eric stood up again, this time feeling uneasy. He walked to the window and opened the curtain slowly. Still nothing. But then he noticed something. Fingerprints on the outside of the glass. Long, smudged, like someone had been pressing their hands against the window. His heart started racing. He stepped back, locked the window, and closed the curtains. The next morning, he went outside to check. The ground beneath the window was muddy, and there were footprints, leading up to the window, and then leading away into the trees behind his house. Eric stared at the footprints. They were deep, clear. Whoever had been there had been standing right outside his window, watching him. For how long? He didn't know. He felt sick. That night, he decided he wasn't staying there. He packed a bag and left to stay with a friend. Before leaving, he locked every door and window, making sure everything was secure. But later that night, around 3 a.m., he got a notification on his phone, a motion alert, from the small security camera he had installed in his room. His heart started racing. He opened the app. The camera was on, pointing directly at his window. For a few seconds, nothing moved. Then slowly, a figure stepped into view. From the darkness outside, standing right in front of the window, staring inside. Eric's hands started shaking. He couldn't see the face clearly, just a silhouette, tall, still, watching. Then suddenly, the figure moved closer, pressing its face against the glass. And this time, he could see it, smiling. The screen froze, the feed cut out. Eric called the police immediately, but when they checked the house, there was no one there. No signs of entry, nothing. Just the window and the faint outline of handprints on the glass. Eric never went back to that house. Story 3. The Hidden Phone. A woman named Carla started noticing strange things in her apartment. Small things at first. Items slightly moved. Doors not fully closed. Lights turned on when she was sure she had turned them off. At first, she thought she was just forgetful. But deep down, something didn't feel right. One night, she came home and noticed something different. Her bedroom door was slightly open. She was sure she had closed it that morning. Carefully, she walked inside. Everything looked normal, but as she stood there, she heard a faint sound, a vibration like a phone buzzing. She followed the sound. It was coming from under her bed. Slowly, she knelt down and looked underneath, and that's when she saw it. A phone, not hers. An old phone, hidden under the bed, still recording. Her heart dropped. Someone had been inside her apartment, watching her, recording her. She grabbed the phone and ran outside immediately. She called the police. When they checked the device, they found hours of recordings of her in her apartment doing normal things, unaware she was being watched. But the most disturbing part was the last video. It showed her leaving the apartment that morning, closing the door, and then, a few minutes later, the door slowly opening again from the inside. Carla felt her body go cold. She replayed the video again and again, trying to understand what she was seeing. She clearly saw herself leave and close the door, then silence. A few minutes passed in the footage, and then the door handle slowly moved from the inside. The door opened just slightly, like someone was being careful not to make noise. A shadow moved across the hallway inside her apartment. Carla dropped the phone. Her hands were shaking. That meant one thing. Someone had been inside the entire time, watching her, living in her space without her knowing. The police searched the apartment later that day. At first, they found nothing, until one of the officers noticed something strange. A small panel in the back of her closet, slightly loose. They opened it. Behind it was a narrow crawl space, dark, barely big enough for a person. Inside, they found empty water bottles, food wrappers, and a blanket. Someone had been staying there, watching her, recording her for days, maybe longer. But whoever it was gone. They never found out who did it, and they never found out how long they had been there. Sometimes, the scariest thing isn't the dark. It's knowing that someone is watching you. If you enjoyed these true stalker horror stories, subscribe for more every week. And remember, if something feels wrong, it probably is.